DuckTV Esports is proud to present episode 2 of our brand new League of Legends podcast, Intentionally Speaking. Now, bringing you episode 2 is your host, Jacob Thompson.
Hello everybody, welcome to the second episode of Intentionally Speaking. I'm your host, Jacob Thompson. We have an amazing show for you today as we talk about LCS Week 2 reactions. Then we're actually going to dive into a topic that me and Drew were really excited to talk about last podcast, which is the LCS Academy, North American League of Legends culture and the struggle for rising players. Then to wrap things up today, we have a special guest joining us from our very own League of Legends team here at the University of Oregon, Matt Sevenfold XD, as he talks about League of Legends at a college level. So why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Drew again from last week. In-game name, Sleepy Sandman, support man, 2 years going on now, Thresh and Bard.
My name is Nick Clay. You can definitely find me playing mid lane in the gold rank.
Just gonna throw in your rank like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like baller moves.
Cool. That's fine. I didn't realize that's what we were doing, but
I mean, I'm climbing though. That's all that matters.
That's good. No, that's like always climb.
Yeah.
I like that.
Climb gang.
I don't really want to say what mine is currently, but maybe in like a week or two, I'll throw my rank out there. So why don't we start off today? Let's just talk about week 2 of LCS, because I know it's something we kind of got to talk about, and there was a lot of stuff that happened this week.
Mm-hmm. I think probably the first thing that we should probably talk about is definitely the top of the table, because we did see some changes a little bit where both FlyQuest and Dignitas both lost a game each this week, while Cloud9 is still the only team in the league that's undefeated. And I think it's hard to say, like, I mean, I think you can say for sure that probably Cloud9 is the best looking team right now, or the most complete looking team going into probably, week 3. I mean, like, if you just like look down like all the stats and stuff for Cloud9, they have the lowest average game time. They have like the largest goal differential per minute, so we're looking at like 393. They have the fewest deaths in the game, while also having like they're tied, I believe, for most average kills per game at like 15.
And that's definitely up there.
Yeah. And then I think also one of the things that when I was like watching the games and stuff, I think they put it up there, but Sven actually has a perfect KDA right now.
He's 8-0 and is he 8? No, 18.
Yeah,
33.
8's way too low. I was gonna say he's been popping off since he went over to C9. Like,
18-0
still deathless going into week 3.
I will say that we talked about last week goal differential. I'm a big fan of goal differential.
Yeah, obviously, but like, continue. Sorry.
Yeah, keep going.
But I mean, like. And then I think another thing that you could even bring up is just like the versatility of the team. So like already within the first 4 games, Niski has played 4 different champs. So, he saw him on the Pantheon, the Zoe, the Morgana, the Vigar. And I definitely do think that this meta right now suits Niski.
Oh, yeah.
I agree with that.
Control mage player.
I personally think that like Niski has been like a mid laner that has been slept on, and like I've been a long time like C9 fan. Like my friends that introduced me into the sport, like our C9 fans and that kind of things. Like I was always Jensen all the way, and like when he left for like X amount of reasons, and like Niski stepped to the table, it was always the question of like, will he be able to do it? And like I've honestly for the past 2-3 splits been pleasantly surprised with what Niski has brought to the table, and he continues to innovate and like play in that out of the box like C9 go get it style, which is like really really fun to watch. And I think like he's going to really excel this like the season into the next, and potentially over the next year or so become one of the top 3, if not already, mid laners in an ALCS.
And also I think like, and I can bring this up as a question as well, but just kind of like objective securing, and I think more importantly like Rift Herald, because as you also look at Cloud9 statistics, they're actually probably the best team at securing objectives. So I mean, they've secured 81.7% of their dragons in their 4 games, and they're averaging 1.5 heralds a game, which is pretty insane because there's 2 heralds, and as we've seen in the past games, herald is a pretty contestable objective right now.
Yeah. That's definitely something that like I really wanted to like touch on in terms of like not just C9, but like in terms of the Dignitas versus FlyQuest game, where we see Dignitas get their first loss, and I think that largely has to do with the meta going on right now. Like we see a lot of like pro play is oriented around a jungle rotation where 8-minute spawns, Rift Herald spawns, so both bot lanes are going to switch, go to the top side, and try and gain control of the Dragon Baron pit. Yeah, and Dignitas, that's their strategy that's been working them for the past like 6 games now, that kind of thing, and like C9 uses it effectively. And going into the Dignitas versus FlyQuest game, not to like fully take away from C9, but I wanted to talk about like how surprising was it that Dignitas lost in terms of FlyQuest? And essentially, like, how much do you think Dignitas's loss was due to, like, the meta of jungle rotations around early Rift for gold advantage? Because, like, we see Huni early on, like, overextend. What's FlyQuest's jungler? Santorin, yeah. Santorin, like, great pathing, catches Huni off, kind of thing, right? But then after that, Huni continues to press and then gets himself caught out, and then we get to the 8-minute mark, and everyone rotates to the top side of the map, and Huni overextends on a fight, and now, like, Dignitas is on the back foot for the rest of the game, you know? Like, all for this Rift Herald, and, like, how much do you think that loss or, like, continuous losses for this game are, like, due to, like, prioritization of the Rift Herald objective? And how much do you think it would be, like, I guess in the specific scenario was, like, a lack of communication between the team? Because I saw as the game went on, like, there was no direction for what to do.
Yeah. I would say that I think definitely with Dignitas specifically, their strategy does revolve around the 8-minute Herald. You know, like, they want that Herald.
Yeah.
So I think with Huni, you know, I think we definitely saw a little, like, this game specifically was really tough almost to watch him play, because you saw him getting caught out a lot. You saw him making some of those mistakes, like him getting, you know, killed early on, which I think definitely had a huge impact on the game. And, you know, that there's probably a lot of reasons to attribute that. I know it was, again, like, he probably didn't want to lose that objective. He didn't want to give up that strategy, and I think that was something that probably hurt them a little bit, but it's something that I think kind of as the split will go on, they'll probably be able to, be able to adapt to different situations.
Well, that was something for sure. Like, when I brought this up to you earlier this week, was looking at like, I originally, like, took it back and I was just frustrated that, like, Huni was, like, chain inting, quote unquote, but I don't really think he was. I think there was just, like, a disconnect where, like, if you look at those plays where, like, he goes in first to initiate on Set, which, like, Set kind of is an initiation champion anyway, he just had, like, the lack of communication follow-up. Like, say he has that follow-up and back up there, like, that fight could turn and then they could actually end up with their Herald, you know, and, like, swing those fights. It was just, like, there was a disconnect that, like, we haven't seen from Dignitas yet that, like, kind of showed up this week, and it may be a weakness going into week 3. As it's TL Dignitas. I don't know what Dignitas' second game is, but, like, the TL Dignitas game is going to be, like, no, C9, right? Yeah, no, C9 Dignitas game. That's going to be, like, a really big game to watch, especially after, like, we haven't seen this yet from Dignitas, considering how much of a breakout team they've been.
Yeah. So on the topic of Dignitas specifically, why don't we transition into the LCS Academy teams? Because Dignitas is actually pretty much the main subject of what I want to talk about for the LCS Academy. So I don't know how you guys feel, but as being a fan watching the LCS, the Academy games haven't really, I don't know how to describe it. Probably it's more of like they haven't really had the same kind of feel as I feel like they should have. And I think that comes from the fact that LCS Academy teams feel very much like a storage unit rather than a place to incubate up-and-coming talent. Specifically, what I'm referencing is Dignitas' team, which, I mean, they're fun to watch because I think Demonte's awesome. I think a.k.a. is amazing. And I do like Olay as a support.
And what's interesting about that is a lot of those players you just mentioned were substitutions last year. They weren't even, like, Academy team players.
So it blows my mind that I mean, I feel like that the Academy teams should be a place for, you know, specifically for new players, either players that are scouted from solo queue or players that are recruited from other regions. And to have this sort of, like, feeling of, okay, so this is just a team that's basically an LCS roster just on an Academy team, it just doesn't really give me the same, like I don't really want to watch that game because I know that, you know, Demonte is just going to trash on these up-and-coming players and doesn't really give them the experience that they need to perform at LCS level.
And I mean, like, you can even, you know, bring up kind of just, like, I think one of the really big points also is, and a good example of this is the whole Pobelter situation.
Yeah, that's a really good point there.
Just, I mean, this man, Pobelter, has been in the league for a long time. And, I mean, he, fortunately enough, was able to get a position as a coaching spot for TL. But
almost starting jungler.
Yeah, he was almost the starting jungler if Schernfire didn't show up. But I mean, if you're really looking at it, I mean, the LCS, there's 10 teams, there's 5 spots on each team. So what you're really saying is like, if there's not really this academy side, in terms of, like, if you're not in those 50 players that are on the LCS team, then, like, where are those players going to go? You know, where are these Pobelters, these Demontes, you know, supposedly if they're not this LCS caliber, are we just going to send them? Is that like the end of their career? Like, are they going down?
Yeah, I think Drew. We kind of brought this up last podcast.
Yeah,
as well.
so I have a lot. It may not have been last podcast. It may have been like in discussion this week. But like I've had a lot of thoughts about things like that, and this is like stuff in watching the world, like past World season, and like a reflection of like why can't NAs make it out of groups and that kind of thing. And I think like a large problem like North America, especially like the LCS like problem is facing is there are a lot of old season vet players both in the LCS and academy teams. Like we see Huhi and like he's an academy team player right now, like that kind of thing. Like they're great players, but it becomes to the point where it's like, when is the old guard going to like toss up their flag? Like it's not like they should stop playing the game, it's not like they shouldn't make content, it's not that they shouldn't be incorporated into teams, but like for NA to compete at an international level again, like we need to start fostering like in-house quote unquote talent, like you were saying, with that kind of thing. And like it becomes this whole question of like, okay, yeah, maybe they're not good enough to be like on the starting team, but they're still a good player, so we're gonna put them on the academy team. Well, that takes away from any like NA solo queue player, you know, and like it makes like solo queue less competitive because like these same old guard players are just gonna be sitting there at the top of the ladder. Exactly. And it's like where's the drive, where's the motivation, like what is that goal still in ladder? And that's why one thing, like in terms of I'm a big soccer fan, I'm like other sports and that kind of thing, and a really cool thing that I think the English Premier League does and like all the other European leagues does that like MLS doesn't do is they have a relegation league. Not relegation league, but they have a relegation system. So like I think like a good direction, and this is just like kind of spitballing here, for like the LCS to do would be to essentially not combine the academy teams and the like the top tier teams, but make it a relegative league. So like you have the A teams sit there, and like the bottom 3 teams at the end of the league get dropped down into the academy league, and then the top 3 academy teams get moved up.
I think it's so they would drop down at the bottom 3 teams in the LCS, and the top 3 teams in the academy league would drop down into a tournament, which I think that's something. I think that's something that in terms of like timing isn't exactly doable, but I believe that's how. Is that how the Premier League does it? They do a tournament?
No. So Premier League, it's simply it's either top 2 or top 3 move up, bottom 3 move down.
Yeah.
And that's how they get rotated in and out. And I think like, especially with motivation for like, okay, if you're going to be a seasoned veteran player, then you need to continue to step up and perform and not slack off, you know, like just because like you can do better on an academy team doesn't mean you should play that kind of thing. And it gets to the point where it's like, oh, if I'm going to be a seasoned player, like does CLG have any like their academy team have any like veteran players?
I don't believe so. I think we were talking about earlier. They have a couple of the BBQ Oliver players, or one of them.
Yeah. I know they're not good.
Yeah.
No,
but
CLG hasn't won
yeah.
a game yet.
I can't think of anyone on the top of my head. I was looking actually at their academy team when I was like figuring out stuff to talk about. But I think that, I mean, you brought up a good point. I mean, I kind of agree. Like the relegation system definitely does work, because this whole franchise thing seems very, I don't know how to say it. It seems like it
allows teams to get comfortable. I
Yeah.
think that's
Exactly.
the problem, and that I don't want to specifically call out Echo Fox because, you know, I was a huge Echo Fox fan, just like the organization as a whole. I love Rick Fox. He's an amazing guy, and he's done a lot of good stuff for esports. But, you know, and I'm sure that wasn't, you know, them fizzling out at the end of the last split. Definitely, I'm sure there was a lot of other reasons why they were fizzling out.
Echo Fox
But
there's a lot of company
There's
issues.
a lot of
There's
issues.
a lot
But-
of issues with Echo
but
Fox. I don't
the
even want to
idea
delve into that.
of a team that does not really fighting for anything anymore. It just, then what's the point of, you know, actually, you know, showing up, keep practicing hard, keeping that mindset, and including a relegation system would force these bottom teams to figure something out, or they're out.
Yeah, and that's like, it's like there's this whole mentality of like, I guess like 100 Thieves, like they did so bad last spring split, you know, but like it got to the point where everyone was just like, well, you know what, they can just like give up and focus on the next split. It's
Exactly.
like that doesn't breed competition. And I'm not saying that like I want to like forever punish like bad teams, you know, because like there is always room for improvement, but it's like, at what point can NA draw the line and be like, okay, you know what, like we need to perform, like we are like the home of like this game, you know, even if it like it's gotten much bigger than NA.
Yeah.
Like we don't perform on the world stage anymore, and we need to figure out why, you know, like we can't answer with more imports, because at what point is that NA, you know?
Yeah.
Like we have, for like, I'm blanking on it, LPX, right? Like they won Worlds last year, and it's a team that's like never even been to the world stage, you know, like they're all like home talents, and well, I think they had 2 imports.
They had 2
Yeah,
Koreans, yeah.
yeah. But even then, like it's just like we don't have those teams because we don't have that kind of like competitive mindset. And I feel like this relegation system where you have top 3 move up, bottom 3 move down, like it might shake things up enough to the point where you're sitting there like, oh, why does Cloud9 have 2 teams like in the top tier? You know, like how can we do that as an organization? And I feel like that's one route that the LCS should like really look into.
And then also, I mean, it was kind of when you brought up 100 Thieves, I actually wrote down some stuff, and I actually think that at least in terms of the academy system, like some of these organizations like Cloud9, you know, they've actually done a pretty good job utilizing this academies team. You know, we've seen them bring up Blabber, we've seen them bring up Zazel, we've seen them bring up some of this talent that like has flourished in the league so far. And I think one of the teams that I think right now in terms of the academy, whether or not, you know, their LCS success is actually showing right now, is 100 Thieves. I think the 100 Thieves academy team is actually doing pretty good right now. They're number 2 in the standings, and they won the summer split of the academy last year against Golden Guardians. But I mean, they have some pretty young talent that I feel like even if 100 Thieves were not successful in the LCS, you know, they have Breezy, who's this solo queue monster, top 10. He plays with like double lift sometimes. You have Prismal, who I would say is arguably one of the best ADCs in the academy system right now. I think with Johnson being moved up, you know, I think that, I mean, Prismal, I think, is definitely one, if not top 2. And then, like, another person who's had a little bit of spotlight, we kind of saw it in the LCS, was Saligo as their mid laner. He's actually gotten a lot of positive praise, especially in his, like, most recent performance in the Tyler
fun to
1
watch,
championship.
like, the end of summer split.
And especially, and I think we were talking about his Twitch rivals.
Yeah, the Tyler 1 Championship Series, I believe. I'm pretty sure he also played in the Twitch Rivals as well. But a lot of people, he actually got a lot of praise, especially on Reddit and stuff, for his performance and his play. And he's definitely been one of those players that I think should be given another shot. He's a young player. I think he's like 20 years old or something. Actually, I think all 3 of those players I've named are 20 years old. I think Prismal, Breezy, and Sligo are all 20 years old. So they're still in that prime spot. But I definitely do think that teams like 100 Thieves, like Cloud9, like this, like you were saying, maybe this Golden Guardians Academy, I mean, maybe they're kind of doing something right with, you know, this fostering of talent. You know, but I mean, again, we haven't obviously seen enough rookies come out of it to say, though, that it's successful.
But I think that ties back to the whole, like, not to, like, beat the dead horse out of this topic, you know, but, like, that ties back to the whole idea of, like, there's this old guard of players that, like, haven't left for years, and, like, they're still good, but, like, what point can they be replaced? You know, what point do they step off? And I like, by pushing to have more competition between these academy teams instead of them just being, like you were saying, a, like, pocket roster, essentially, like, I feel like that might be the drive to push to get more rookies from NA out of the solo queue ladder.
And kind of transitioning from that, I think also something that's really important to think about for, you know, the amateur scene for League of Legends is, you know, solo queue. Like, having that, like, the game is designed, the rank system is designed, and, you know, with scouting grounds, it's designed for young players to grind out the ranked ladder, get up to these high spots, play against these players, and then get scouted. You know, and I think
that's why I play the game. Like, the ranked system didn't exist, I wouldn't play.
Exactly.
Like,
and JJ had a great, I think he tweeted about this. I'm not sure. I think it was around the time Worlds ended. He talked about how, you know, North America spends a lot of time complaining about solo queue, complaining about the fact that we're playing at 60 ping, which granted is annoying, but, you know, you can't let those little things prevent you from playing solo queue. And when you're not having these high level players fighting for, you know, the top spots in Challenger, then it doesn't give these new players any drive to push for that, you know, and they want to show themselves against those other players, when, you know, that's something that they should the pro players really should be focusing on and trying to, you know, enrich that solo queue experience, which then promotes the players, you know, these rising players. And I think that's something that's really important to think about.
Yeah, and I mean, you touched on the idea of the scouting grounds and the stuff that there actually is. I'm gonna, you know, say that, like, although, you know, we do have this scouting grounds, we are seeing players like in Nori. We're seeing players that have, like, been in the league, And for some reason, because they're so high on the solo queue ladder, they keep getting accepted into the scouting grounds based off of like the I think it's like top 2 for each role get an invitation to scouting grounds, and they can choose whether or not to accept it. And then there's the circuit, which is how they get the other funneling, which is through these amateur teams. But the sad thing is like a lot of these players, they get these, I mean, because the whole point of scouting grounds is like each team in the league, they get to approach one player directly, and then they can choose to offer them a contract or not. And I'm just reading some of these the Twitter posts from some of these players, like, yeah, they were approached maybe by these teams, but their offers were eventually dropped because the teams were okay with whatever their academy system was already, and then there's no funneling of that.
So, yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely something to think about. I it's something I never thought about, and then scouting grounds is something that, I want to eventually look more into. Why don't we transition to the last little part here? We have our resident League of Legends master coming straight from the top lane, where he abuses Malphite and his Aatrox, which I hear he's playing 75 games of, so hopefully he'll bring that up at some point. We have Matt Sevenfold XD Rados coming in talking to us about college League of Legends and his experiences with it. All right, welcome back, guys, to Intentionally Speaking. On the mic now, we do have Matt here coming in talking to us about college League of Legends and his experiences with it.
Yo, what's up?
So, Matt, how is playing League of Legends competitively at the college level helping the amateur scene right now?
Honestly, I feel as if there's a pretty big divide between the best colleges that are super high ranked, such as like Arizona or like Maryville, right? Or even like Harrisburg University. And then like there are other colleges where the average rank is like platinum, and it doesn't really matter to the like overall like competitive scene in a way, right? Like you see players like Breezy going from playing on Arizona to now being on 100 Thieves Academy, if I am correct on that.
Yeah, we were actually just talking about that.
Yeah, we were just talking about that.
Easy.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's...
Yeah, okay. So what do you think the future of League of Legends looks like in college? Like what do you think maybe in 3 or 5 years you would hopefully like to see, or what do you think we could see?
I definitely see more of a room for it to sprout out to more of a actual sport in a sense. Right now, most colleges have a scuffed system, like for lack of a better word.
No,
like
that
yeah.
works.
Yeah, a lot of the time it's run through like gaming clubs, not necessarily through programs itself. Like that's starting to change a lot.
Especially here, with our
Exactly.
esport program, we've definitely done a really good job of promoting our talent and promoting, our guys here that really want to, take this seriously.
Shout out to
100%
David
agree.
and DuckTV.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So, Drew, did you have any questions you want to ask me?
I do. Then these are just like more curious questions, and
Okay.
then it's gonna be like kind of rapid fire style. And then I guess I'd like pose like anything, a couple things we've talked about, and like if you have any thoughts, that kind of thing. So first question, Flash on D or F?
F is for Flash.
Oh, God. No.
Okay.
It's D for Dash.
Okay, and can I ask why?
Why? Honestly, when I first started playing this game, I'm relatively new. I started in Season 7, so there was just so much content out there that I had trouble figuring out what I wanted to watch, so I didn't actually watch anything. And so I just went with the default settings for like over 2 years. I was using max size HUD, all this disgusting stuff. I never made my map bigger than it originally was. Like,
Oh God.
Is that why you're still in platinum?
Way to like
Moving.
go
Funny
for an
story.
attack, bro. He's on the
Last-
team and you're not, so like
Last year-
chill, man.
Last year, over the summer, I was making my first climb to Diamond. I actually made my HUD the smallest possible, made my map as big as possible, and it took me 1 day to rank up to my peak rank at the
Did
time.
you hear that, Nick?
Oh,
Take some notes down, man.
I mean, if we're being honest, I do have Flash on F. So
Okay, no. So
Okay.
Flash is on D, and F is for fire, for ignite.
Okay, see, I have a completely different mindset. I put my Flash on D, but it's because I have really fat fingers, and like I ping a lot, and I use G, right? So
Okay.
like early on, like I would accidentally flash, not intentionally, just because I have a fat ass finger.
Okay.
So like, so like I just moved it to D, and then I realized that like it's a normal thing, but it's a topic of debate. So like I always like to ask, but that's why I have it on D, is just because like so I didn't mistakenly flash when I was trying to be like danger, that kind of thing. Next question. What are your like top 3 like most comfortable champs?
Top 3 most comfortable. Number 1 for sure right now has to be Aatrox. I feel like I'm over 80 games of it at this point. I beat my 75 game challenge.
75 game challenge. I saw that on
I
Discord,
ever heard
so.
that. Yeah, I'm pretty confident in blind picking it into nearly anything at this point. There's a few hard matchups like Fiora, Irelia, which are just really annoying,
Yeah,
but they're
that
still
makes
like
sense.
winnable if you play it right. But behind that, in terms of comfortability, I think Singed is probably up there as one of my top 3. He's my historical like most played top laner,
Okay.
so I definitely know the ins and outs of a lot of matchups and when I can and can't fight. As well as Malphite, gotta rep my boy.
I will
Yeah.
say that I did introduce you saying that you were a Malphite player, and that's only because I know that your Discord profile picture is the Malphite 10-year anniversary picture, which I
That
think
is such a great picture.
That's one of the greatest.
It's a good
pictures
picture.
of all time.
It was my
It's
wallpaper for on my phone
fantastic.
for at least like 3 to 4 days, and
Oh,
like I
it's
changed
so
it a
good.
lot. So the fact that it lasted multiple days is
I don't
something
know
to be
where
known
that
for.
came from, but props to whoever. or
Yeah, I
however
wanted
that
it.
came
I
up
wanted a
with
full-on
this.
splash art, like
That is
so I could just
amazing.
make it as my desktop because I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
One more here. If you had to play like any other role to like main, what would it be?
Jungle probably.
Okay.
I only switched over to top lane this last December,
Okay.
and I played jungle the entire time before that. So
All right,
2
like
years worth of jungling. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess this is more of a curiosity. Like,
Mhm.
do you watch LCS or like any of that kind
Yeah.
of
that.
thing?
Yeah, you a big
I-
LCS fan.
yeah, I closely follow the scene. Sometimes I just don't have time. I watch or I look at the rundowns. I watch like the laning phases in the draft. I feel like are the most important times in the game most of the time.
I totally
So,
agree.
So, what did you think of this week 2? What did this last week of LCS? Would you see anything you react to? Anything that you thought stood out to you?
I am honestly very surprised that Cloud9 kept going. Like I won't say I'm a hater of Cloud9, but I'm definitely one of those people that's like, they're popular, get away from me, right? But
So I'm 100% fan.
I'm surprised that they're still 4-0. Like I thought Dignitas would for sure still be 4-0 at this point. That's
I'd say for me
basically-
personally, Dignitas like in the FlyQuest loss was like it was a surprise,
Yeah.
but like as I like look back at it more and watch the
Definitely
game like
agree
2
with
or 3 times, like I understand why it happened, and like it makes sense. They're both teams that like thrive on getting the early lead, and Dignitas fell behind and didn't know what to do from there. So
yeah.
I definitely agree with that. That was definitely something that I think we had talked about FlyQuest and Dignitas pretty extensively last week, and so to watch Dignitas or watch FlyQuest win, kind of gave me as like, because I knew that you specifically were like telling me that Dignitas is better, FlyQuest isn't that good, FlyQuest is the bottom of my table.
okay, I didn't like use those phrases exactly, but FlyQuest was definitely the bottom of my table, and that has to do with FlyQuest's just history. You know, like they do well for like parts of the season, but they're just patchy, and like they're doing really well right now. If they can keep it up for the next like 3-4 weeks, then yeah, for sure they're going to be a playoff contender, possibly can win the split. But
Matt, what do you
I'm
think
still on the
about
fence.
CLG right now and their struggles not only on their main roster but with their academy team as well?
I am not gonna lie. I was so disappointed after week 1 that I just completely like dropped off following them. Like once I scroll through Reddit, I see the post-match report, and I see, hey, CLG finally won a game. I'll be like, wow, okay, maybe I should
Yeah.
pay closer attention. But I have no idea what's happening.
Speaking of
with them right
CLG,
now.
I had a fun question I wanted to pose to everybody, and
Okay.
you, since you're here as well. If the CLG were to enter a round robin with the academy teams, how many games do you think they would win?
5.
5?
Mm,
That's bold.
I think
I
they
think 5.
I think they'd win a lot more than you guys think. I mean,
Actually, you know what? I take that back. I think they would win probably like 6 or 7. I think maybe 100 Thieves and Dignitas were the two that I would definitely say yes to, but for some reason I think I'm thinking them as a little too close to Golden Guardians, and CLG still is a very good roster, and I think that once they get their communication problems figured out, I think that they are going to bounce back for sure.
yeah,
Okay.
I mean they have Stixay as their ADC, and like Stixay is not a bad ADC at
No,
all.
Stixay is like slept on. in my
Yeah,
opinion.
he's so slept on.
Very good.
And then I mean I don't really think that Wrigley has like been that bad. Wiggly. I always get it mixed up, but I don't really think he's doing that bad from the games that I have watched. I think that a lot of the issues just come down to just like teamwork and team coordination,
communication, I think, as
cohesion.
well.
I think.
I think having to import players that don't, or that I think definitely that language barrier is definitely present right now, and I'm sure that, and it's something that will change and will get easier as time goes on. But I think right now, their current iteration, I'm going with I'm gonna recant on 5 and say 7 that they'd win 7.
Did any of you guys catch the Smoothie interview?
You know, I don't want to watch Smoothie, honestly.
Like
After this weekend,
in game, like face to face, like
anything, honestly.
Okay.
This
that's
against
fair. I
100
just wanted to see
Thieves,
how
Smoothie's
personal it was.
performance, like as a support player, there was a moment in the 100 Thieves game where, who was it? Crown got hit with a sleepy bubble from Ryoma, and Smoothie just simply walked away from him. And like, again, I don't know the comms. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if maybe called them off of it. They were already retreating, but as a support player, it is instinct to stand in front of that.
Yeah.
And it's seeing that, there was very visible frustration at the end of the game with the team. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm rooting for him. I want him to succeed. I want that team to succeed. But I will say I did not watch the post-game interview. I did not watch any of the interviews with him.
I don't want to say like personally like I'm rooting for him just because like I've just negative experiences watching him in the past, but I just like I'm at the point where like I hope whatever's going wrong just gets fixed so he can like live up to the hype that everyone talks about to be, because everyone's like, oh, he's so good, he's been on the top teams, but he just seems to like be at the center, be it his fault or not, of a lot of issues on the teams he's on. So
Do you want to like elaborate on the interview, kind of, just in case of anyone that hasn't
so
seen it yet?
for those that don't know, there's an interview. I don't even remember who it was, but I like watched recaps. I like
Was it Travis, maybe?
Was it Gafford?
It may have been Travis Gafford. Anyways, and there's quotes in discussion where essentially, little backstory. CLG and TSM traded their supports, Biofrost and Smoothie. Both teams thought they got the better end of the deal because TSM needed a quieter voice that was still a strong support laner, and Biofrost can provide that for their lane. And CLG needed a louder voice, someone that can help direct the game going on. Problems with CLG. They have language barriers throughout the team, which that's natural with imports, and eventually that gets worked out and people figure it out, that kind of thing. And they thought that Smoothie was going to be the one to bring in it. The problem with Smoothie is consistently there have been reports and talk about Smoothie. Essentially, he talks a lot, but it isn't constructive or productive. It's just loud on comms. And when approached about like the whole like situation, that kind of thing in this interview, Smoothie essentially was he kind of put Biofrost on a lower pedestal, put himself on a higher pedestal, said that like it was the right decision, like blah blah blah, that kind of thing, and indirectly defended himself and saying like I'm like shot calling, blah blah blah, doing the right kind of things. Yet consistently, as we've seen with the abysmal games that CLG has presented, nothing seems to be working yet.
Well, and Smoothie was on TSM last year, and TSM didn't really have much success either. So.
Granted, TSM had success, but it was not from the bot lane.
It was not from the bot lane.
It was not from the bot lane.
I honestly don't even remember a single time where that bot lane did win. Like last year, it was
like win lane.
Yeah,
that's the part of that has to do with just Sven's playstyle. Sven for one has done a complete 180. I don't know if you've watched, but he's done a 180 where like we've used to for years. Seeing he like he never falls behind in lane and he always stays even or gets ahead, but he's passive. But like it scales him into late game team fights, which was perfect for TSM playstyle because they like to play for the late game. And this year it's like we were talking earlier, perfect KDA, deathless. Like he is killing it right now, and it's like really fun to watch. But last year I totally agree, like there wasn't a single point that I can remember either where they win lane. In fact, the thing I most remember about TSM's bot lane was spring split final where Sven gets caught out and completely loses the game, and then
just put Sven on
TL
Ezreal
wins,
and let him farm.
It's like
let him farm.
but the thing, he was on Ezreal and
then
got caught
every
out
single
and died,
game.
And I don't know, but like it's nice to see him do a 180, but definitely like that was TSM's weakest point last year, was their bot lane. Biofrost, I feel like their setup right now is pretty strong. I feel like my issues with TSM are not from the bot lane and that kind of thing. It's just more like a kind of like team coordination that they're like settling in. So it's nice to see them get like 2 wins this week. But yeah, totally. Like it kind of raises the question as to like at what point is Smoothie's issues going to be solved, and at what degree are they is on?
Yeah. So kind of wrapping up here, Matt, what do you think? So first off, what are you excited to see for next week if you end up catching the LCS games?
Honestly, I'm just going to be a real fat hater here. I want to see Cloud9 lose a game. I don't know who's going to do it. I don't even know if anyone's capable of doing it yet, but I definitely
Wanna see that.
it's just always exciting to see that undefeated team finally get taken down.
Okay.
And I mean, like, they're also playing Dignitas and at FlyQuest
Yeah,
next
that's
week.
what-
So
exactly.
this is going to be their
It's gonna be a
hardest,
big week
week
for
so
them.
far.
Do you think, I don't know when the next time they play Team Liquid is, but news for those that don't know, Brox's visa got approved this morning. So he is on his way to
okay.
Team Liquid. Do you think, like, coming back, the rematch, Team Liquid versus C9, do you think, assuming, like, working together, meshed, we'll see the Team Liquid that we saw, like, at their height, you know, that kind of thing? And do you think they'll be able to take down C9?
Definitely. I think maybe we won't see it completely. You know, coming into this next week, I assume that he's going to be starting coming into week 3, right?
I don't know how soon he's starting. I just know the visa's been approved. So even then, I'm more looking for like long term, where you're saying like someone's got to take him down, and it's a question of who it's going to be. I could see it being Dignitas or FlyQuest, just because both those teams have looked really strong week 1, week 2. But like if they don't, do you think Team Liquid will be able to essentially, like with the addition of Broxa?
I think they can. I think that, I mean, if you look on paper, I mean, Team Liquid's roster as a whole, you know, you have Double Lift, who is a multi-split MVP. You have Core JJ, who was also, I think, an MVP as well last year in the spring split or something?
I couldn't even tell you how many times he's been MVP.
They have,
he's just so good.
They have a world champion top laner in Impact. I mean, they have Jensen, who is arguably, since he's come into the league, he's probably been a top 3 mid laner, you know, every single split. So, I mean, you have the consistency there. I mean, on paper, this team looks like a powerhouse, and I think adding Broxa is just going to help this team a lot. Because Schernfire, you know, he's a young kid still. I think that Broxa, with that experience, is just going to add more playmaking potential on this Team Liquid team. And I think that they could definitely compete against Cloud9, Dignitas, and FlyQuest at the top.
So I think, just wrapping up some general ideas here, it seems like we're excited to see Cloud9 lose, which I think is going to be very
I'm
exciting.
not, but yeah.
But I agree with it.
It's one of those, like, you know what? It's the question of, can someone do it?
Yeah.
For me, anyway.
So I'm excited to watch them. I think that's all the time we got today. Matt, if there's anything else you'd like to say, just plug anything. You know, I know you guys have your first game that we're actually broadcasting at the...
Or attempting to, anyway. But yeah.
attempting to.
On Saturday.
DuckTV
Saturday? Yeah.
Twitch
Yeah.
channel.
Yeah, should be Saturday.
Are you excited? You ready?
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm ready.
How's the season been going so far for you guys?
As a team, I feel like we're definitely coming together a lot. I honestly feel like I'm a bit of a weak point just because I've spent so much time practicing Aatrox as one champion,
Yeah.
and it's so easy to just ban me out, right? Just
Yeah.
throw me onto a tank at this point. I'm kind of uncomfortable, but
Yeah, I will say that having you and anyone else on the team definitely brings a different level of analysis onto the podcast, specifically because you guys play with a different mindset than we do. You know,
Yeah.
because you guys are you guys are playing, 5-man. You guys are trying to come up with strategies, focus on your guys' gameplay. You guys are practicing scrimming, and that's something I think is really interesting. And to have you guys be able to come on and talk about that, I think is something that I'm really excited about, and I'm sure that you guys would be happy to as well.
yeah, for sure. I'm more than down to come on again.
Sweet.
So
Yeah,
Perfect.
happy to
I'd
do
love
so.
to have you again. So I think with that, that'll be it from us today. Thank you to all those listening and watching. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at UO Esports and UO DuckTV on Instagram. And good luck to everybody this week with their rank games. Nick here apparently is going to be hitting diamond, as he's saying.
Oh, yeah.
Flexing
All
his
right.
rank early in the show.
We'll definitely have to update that maybe in future
Maybe
weeks.
next
We'll
time.
see. We'll see.
Where are you at in TFT, though?
Okay. This is not a TFT podcast. I
Okay,
will
good
override
talk.
it.
Wait, the question is who actually plays TFT?
Exactly. That's what I'm wondering. So.
It's fine.
I'm sorry.
I see that. I see
That's
that you
a
posted
topic for
on
another
your
week.
profile.
We could talk about it later, man.
The proceed of
He's
TFT.
flexing his gold 3. I see it.
Yeah.
I see it.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Aw.
Yeah.
That's what he's got.
Thanks for having me here, Matt.
Yeah, Matt. Thank you
Thank
so
you for
much
having me
again
on.
for coming. It was so much fun. I can't wait to have you guys again, and anyone else that would like to hop on from the team specifically. So, thank you. Thanks again, and that's pretty much it from us today. Sweet.
Yeah, see you next time.
Bye-bye.
bye.